Welcome to a new episode of Built to Lead. We're going to call this 5 shots. After each question that our guest answers, we're going to go up and do a skeet shoot.
Put whatever you need to be the entrepreneur that you are first, then your family, and then let business fill the rest.
There can't be progress without clarity, right? If we can't measure it, if we don't know what the goal is, we're never going to get there. All right, welcome to a new episode of Built to Lead. I've got with me today David De Silva, a very good friend of mine and a very successful entrepreneur. He's a father as well as a husband, father of 3, 2 boys and a girl, that's correct. Just someone I look up to a lot and a leader in many different ways. And now he's been in business for almost 30 years, I think we were discussing earlier.
Yep.
And has kind of transitioned his journey into coaching and leading and consulting other entrepreneurs in how to run their businesses. So thanks for coming, David. Welcome to Built to Lead.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, so we're going to do a little bit different thing today. I'm really excited about it, actually. We were already doing a little bit of a warm-up, we'll call it, for this. So we're going to call this 5 shots. And we're going to basically do the way that we're going to do this now is we're going to do 5 questions, but after each question that our guest answers, we're going to go up and do a skeet shoot and see what their skill set is with a shotgun. So, we get a little bit of leadership advice and inspiration as well as a little bit of entertainment, and we kind of do a little bit of that grand tour thing, who does the best percentage of shots and accuracy and all that kind of thing. So anyways, I'm good. It should be really fun.
I think so.
Cool. So question number 1, David, is just, can you please tell us about your business journey and what you've been through and some of the challenges that brought, and just bring us up to speed on you and what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a tough question just of where you really start. I think a key piece of this was that my father passed away when I was really young. And my mother was an old Roman Catholic who would never marry again. So I kind of immediately became the husband to my mother and a father figure to my brother, both of which I was ill-equipped to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it just kind of, I just sometimes imagine like a slingshot and that was it. It released me. And I was forced onto a certain trajectory and had to make do. And I went through a series of jobs, probably 20 different jobs. I would get a job, work really hard, climb the ranks, and then eventually say I'd like more. And they'd say, you're 13, we don't have any more. Like, this is all you're gonna get.
No kidding.
I'm like, okay, I have to quit. How much notice am I supposed to give you? Like, I don't even know, But it was good for me because it taught me a lot of different perspectives of a lot of different industries. And at this point, I had no idea that I would be an entrepreneur, none whatsoever.
Yeah.
I just was, I suppose, just trying to figure out life. And then I moved to British Columbia. I was born and raised in Regina, Saskatchewan, and lived there for 10 months. Came back with my tail between my legs, if you will. I just had 2 jobs, worked all the time, didn't have any time for myself. I was 17, I wanted to have fun, but it's a very expensive town and I was uneducated. And coming back to Saskatchewan, I never worried about the grass being greener anywhere else. So I was content.
Yeah.
And both of those things really steered the ship without me knowing it. One, that I didn't have this need to get away, and 2, I was moving forward into work mode.
Yeah.
And so that's what started it. I studied engineering. As a young East Indian kid. You had 2 choices, doctor or engineer, I think it was. And I would have loved to do the medicine part. I just didn't have the grades. And engineering seemed a little easier to access.
Yeah.
And I studied that for 3.5 years and actually dropped out. I just finally realized this is definitely not what I want to do. And I My brother was already on a work term. He was working somewhere. So it was just my mom and I. And I said, I'm going to drop out of school and move to Alberta and open up a business. And she said, please don't go. I'll be all alone. And she's like, find something here.
Yeah.
And she had a girlfriend that owned a nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and looked at it. And I saw a need. I was really taken aback by the whole idea of looking after a loved one.
Yeah.
And for me, I guess, you know, with my father dying young and not really knowing my grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
This was kind of cool that if I could get into this business, I'd be surrounded by the white hair, as I call it. Like, all of that kind of guidance and shepherding and wisdom I'd have access to.
Yeah.
So I started going around to other care homes, and I checked out about 5 or 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And after talking to the residents and talking to the employees, I just made a list of everything that they had that they were happy about and everything that they were missing that they wish they had.
Mm-hmm.
And when I built my first place, I built it with all the things that they were missing. So I was bars above everyone else. Now I just had to figure out how to run it.
Yeah. Just run a business quick. Pretty simple stuff, I would say, generally. Right? I think you said you were 22 years old when you did that.
I was 22, yeah.
So for the listener, you can imagine, you know, you've been working since 13, you've learned a few lessons, taken some punches, and then you went to school for a bit and went, that's not for me. And now I'm going to open a nursing home. Like it's a crazy thing to think about from my perspective, standing where I am now, and probably even for you to go, I just decided I'm going to open a nursing home.
Yeah. And the thing is like once you have a business, you start to study and do certain things that will move you in a direction.
Yeah.
But for this, I didn't really have control.
Mm-hmm.
I was too young to make intelligent choices. I was too young to have the foresight of, oh, one day I'm going to be an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
It was nothing like that. It was like, I'm moving in this direction. I wonder where it's going to go.
I'm just going to go. It's funny, we were talking about it before, the whole concept of someone when they're going to start a business. If you're a really cerebral, analytical person, you go, okay, I got to get my core values and I got to get my vision statements and I got to get my mission and I got to get all the plan and the finances and that person, although later in business you're going, man, I sure wish I would have done that at the beginning. Yeah. That person often never gets started, right? So it's just this dichotomy between the person who just goes, gets going and gets started and starts the thing.
Yeah.
And then eventually learns that, okay, I have to be better than this to actually succeed at it. I can work until I'm blue in the face, but it's not going to be enough. I actually need to be smarter, more analytical,
or
more
even
strategic.
To maintain.
Yeah.
Even to maintain what you've built.
Yeah. You can just work and work and work and really, like a lot of entrepreneurs just started and they work and work and work and work and work and they become successful just off of sheer willpower almost. Yeah. But then it gets to a point where they realize that they can't maintain it forever.
Yeah.
But they want to protect and grow and progress what they've done, but they kind of get stuck.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's this whole, okay, you can't not let yourself ever get going. You got to start at something, but then you also have to be strategic and smart and wise with the decisions you make. But a little hard when you're 22.
I was a straight up technician. Just talking about marketing today, I remember going to like the Office Depot type place and buying those little folders and getting a paper cutter and printing out my own business cards and everything I did on my own. And I had to shift from this technician mode to manager mode. Yeah. And I didn't even know what a technician or a manager was.
Yeah, you didn't. It's funny, you don't realize how you need to be a different person, have a different skill set. Yeah. I've heard Jocko Willink, I don't know if you know that name or not, Extreme Ownership. I heard him doing a speech once and he said, we go to school for engineering or to be a doctor or to go to even business school or whatever, but pretty much none of these schools will give you a degree in leadership because leadership is just as big of a platform and important as a skill as engineering or nursing or any of these other things, but nobody goes to get their MBA or their bachelor's in
Yeah.
leadership,
Yep.
right? And so we have to, as entrepreneurs, we have to self-educate, or as leaders of any variety, we have to self-educate, but no one's really created that kind of like textbook for
Yeah.
leadership. We have to find our own way, but without it, you don't understand management, you don't understand what the word entrepreneur means. Like
Yeah.
most business owners that are starting a business, whatever it be, a care home to a trucking company to a mechanic shop to a whatever, they're just a really qualified, excellent technician that ends up going in business for themselves to get their own control and freedom. They don't understand what the word entrepreneur and what management and all these structures are for, systems, and why you use them really necessarily, right?
And see, I think that was a gift from my father, is that I was systems oriented. In my mind, I thought about it. I don't think I really knew what a system was to define it, but I knew I liked order.
Yeah.
And one of the last jobs I had was in a restaurant, and the restaurant was really customer focused.
Yeah.
And that taught me how important the person that you're going to do a transaction with is. And that took away the word transaction.
Yeah.
It became,
it's relationship.
Yeah, it became completely relationship focused and was the game changer. So now I've got all of these systems and process training from engineering. I've got all this customer service experience of how to build and maintain and then spread relationship. And I was ready.
Yeah. And then off you went. Okay, so take us down a couple of years down the road. This is progressing along. What's the next piece?
Well, I'm running a little tiny mom and pop operation and maybe 5 bedrooms, and it's enough to give me a living. I ended up moving in the basement, so my cost of living was next to nothing, and I was just enjoying life. But there was one gift that was given to me that I didn't understand until years later, and that was I was making a whole bunch of money, more money than I could spend. And immediately it became more about money. And again, it's just by accident. We're talking in the first year or two of business. Because at first you're just, you want to create something excellent and make it profitable. After that, it was all about quality and relationship. That's all it was.
Yeah, that's great.
And then I found a lot, and it was a huge lot, and I went and knocked on the door of the owner of it, and I said, "Yeah, I'd like to build some care homes on your lot," and he just slammed the door. So it was a pretty hard no, but I persisted. I went back.
Yeah.
And I went back a number of times, and eventually he just gave me a book and he said, "Read this." And I don't know if I shocked him, but I read that book in like 4 days. And I came back and I'm like, "Now I really want you to build this for me." And that helped me, again, create another relationship. Now I built 2 state-of-the-art care homes designed specifically for that purpose. And yeah, I was content, actually. I had accomplished what I wanted to accomplish. I had built something that was reputable and in need. And then I started to feel like, something's missing. And lots of trials, lots of difficulties.
Yeah, day-to-day problems.
But we pushed through. We worked through it. So we learned tenacity, we learned grit. But yeah, just, it was like, okay, I got this. Now what?
Yeah, now what?
So I used to frequent this restaurant a couple times a week for lunch.
Yeah.
And for us, lunch was 2:00, And the manager would serve us. And later he told me that the reason he started serving me is because I was so picky with my meal. None of his servers wanted to serve me anymore. So I thought that was funny. But we started talking, and one day he's like, "How are you able to afford to come for lunch 3 times a week in the middle of the afternoon?" And I told him a story, and he was interested. So I just skipped to the point where I gave him the same book that guy gave me. And this guy read it in 3 days and had it back to me. So next thing you know, we buy that restaurant together. And that created a really fun relationship of going from like 30 employees to 80 or 90 employees. So it changed the scope of everything. Volume was different. But it was a good stretch for me. So it distracted me from the fact that I was bored.
Yeah.
We got into other businesses and expanded it. And one day my banker says to me, David, you should apply for this award. I'm like, why should I apply for this award? And he's like, oh, it would be great. It'll put you on the map. And I'm like, not in a cocky way, but I'm like, I'm on the map and I'm content. Like, I don't want more. Anyways, he said, I just want you to apply. So I didn't do it. And 3 weeks later, he phones me. He's like, you haven't applied. I'm like, no. He goes, do you have time for lunch? I'm like, yeah. Anyways, we go for lunch. He brings the application with him. So we do the application, and a few weeks later, I win. So now I have to do this promo video. I have to do all this stuff. And the reason I'm telling you this story is it comes back to that book. And I haven't told you what the book is. But one of the people that were at that conference gave me that book. And it was pretty amazing because that book had served me very well. And it was all about customer service and it was all about systems. And it's called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. And then I think throughout my career, I've probably given away over 100 of those books.
That's an amazing book. I probably brought it up on every other podcast that we've done.
Yeah, it was
Game changer.
It was really, really cool. But going back to this step, once we got these businesses up and running, and again, we fought, did everything that we had to do to get it to that state where it was ready, sellable or what have you, still the boredom kicked in. So that was the time when I just started to say, okay, well, why am I doing all of this? What's actually the point of this? I can make money, so what's the point? And again, coming from like a broken family, my dad dying when I was young, my mother, I forgot to tell you this part of the story, but when I finally did build those care homes, she was terrified that I was taking on such a commitment, and she actually passed away before they came to fruition.
Oh.
And it's just heartbreaking to kind of have a person pass away in fear. I would have loved for her to actually see
it come all the way through, and that it worked.
But now I find myself like 5 years into this after her passing and very successful, and I'm like, yeah, why am I doing this?
What's it all for, right?
What do I just now open up another business and have more employees and be a success again? And after how many times am I going to do this before it gets completely boring? It already was. So I kind of just vowed off of more business, and at this point I was probably reading a book a week in business, and again, like nothing new under the sun. And I finally just said, okay, I need something different. I need a change. And one evening I was having dinner and a young lady walked in, and I said hello and we started talking, and she came from the exact opposite culture that I was. Mine is like shiny lights, money, fast business, chaos. And she was actually a missionary. And she was probably 22, 23 years old. And she had been doing this missions work for 4 years. And I just couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I had all of this stuff and I was complacent, content, but deeply unfulfilled. And she had nothing but the shirt on her back and was radiant and just wanted to make enough money to go back so she could continue doing it. And that kind of led me on a spiritual journey.
Mm.
And that's what started it.
Cool. That's a great story. I presume this is your wife?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Heidi.
Yeah.
She is radiant.
Yeah, and she hasn't thrown me out yet, so
No,
it's really
we're still going with that.
Yeah, it's very good.
Okay, well, thanks for that, David. And there's more to the story, but I'm going to stop you there, and we're going to continue on in a minute. But I think it's time to take a shot. What do you think?
Yes, we should do that.
We should do that too. Okay, perfect. Well, let's do that.
Okay.
No pressure, David.
No pressure
It's
whatsoever.
the first shot. Point out David is left-handed
Using a right-handed gun.
on a right-handed gun, so extra challenging level here. Oh yeah, there it is.
First one.
First one. All right. Okay, I'll keep that thing down. We'll pop that other one out. All right, 1 for 1 so far. It's a good way to start.
Gosh, I'm glad I made that shot.
Yeah, well done.
That was a lot of
Got 1
pressure.
for 1. It is a lot of pressure. The first one especially, now it's just going to be ringers all the way through.
Can anyone tell I had my eyes closed?
Yeah, well, we'll zoom in for the fans there. Oh, that's great. Okay, so thanks for your first answer. It's a great story, David. You're, obviously a journey, and we only got into part of it, but we're going to move on to question number 2 here.
Yeah.
Hey, so question number 2 is, can you name for us any leaders who you've found inspirational throughout your career, your life, whether they are still alive or people that you still do look up to, so someone that, that helped you become who you are today?
Yeah, it's a really tough question for me because it's not something I've pondered. And I remember just when I was young, reading and studying anything I could that would help me in the next leg of my journey.
Yeah.
So if I was having an HR issue, I'd buy a book that was known for that. Sales or marketing that, operations that, finances that. So I don't know if I could name anyone specifically, but currently, there's a lot of leaders out there that just have really good, solid business principles, but they also have life principles. And the one that comes to my mind is Darren Hardy. Just a straight shooter, creative business person, focused, driven. I like that. And to me, I felt something in common. Mm-hmm. So it was easy to read. And then after that, I started reading all these different business books, and I realized they're kind of all cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
So then I tried to read things that were outrageous, things that, would not only tug at my heartstrings, but just cause me to think in a different way. So, one that was noteworthy was a guy named Viktor Frankl, and I think the book was called A Man's Search for Meaning.
Yes, I read that recently. It's a great book.
Yeah, it was so phenomenal, and it gets into logotherapy, but I don't know much about that. But the book in itself, just a story of who survived in these horrific camps and why.
Yeah.
Again, gave me a different perspective.
Yeah. Well, and a good comparison because we live a very Western life here with a lot of amenities and a lot of benefits and a lot of, not challenges to that level. But to just know what the human spirit can overcome and
Absolutely.
live through and move on from.
Yeah.
That book reminded me a lot of the Stockdale Paradox,
Mm-hmm.
Sergeant Stockdale, same sort of scenario, prisoner of war camps, and dealing with your mental state through being imprisoned and tortured on the regular, and then deciding mentally to live through it and to overcome it and to stay, not necessarily positive, but accept the brutal facts of the situation you're in, and then believe ultimately that you will overcome.
Yeah.
And Viktor Frankl's story is very much that. Pick the little battles that you can fight and fight them and win them one at a time, or just believe that ultimately you'll win in the end.
Yep. And for me, it was a big thing because, honestly, my life was pretty difficult, pretty tragic, right from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
So almost anything outside of that was good.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't really have to struggle to find a silver lining, if you will. Everything was just good. Everything was abundance. So I was always grateful.
Yeah.
But now I see, even having children and coaching and mentoring so many people, a lot of people, it's very difficult for them to see anything but the negative.
Yeah.
They almost live in a permanent frozen state of fear from what's happened in the past, or anxiety for what could happen in the future. It's like they're never present.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I have gleaned from all the books that I've read in my life is to try and be as present as possible. And if right now I'm, worried about the next gunshot, or worried about, someone's coming for dinner or what we're going to cook, I just can't be here with you.
So true.
And if yesterday I watched a podcast of something and I thought it was embarrassing and I'm afraid of that, I can't be here with you.
Yeah.
So for me, a lot of the focus is just to try and be as present as possible. I actually wish I learned it a long time ago when my kids were smaller. They get it now, but there's a lot of years where I just was genuinely distracted and focused on things that were I can't even put them in the realm of importances.
And it's a major struggle of the entrepreneur in general, right?
Yeah.
Like anyone listening to this is going to be very, very aware of the struggle to be present with their family, with their spouse, with their friends, when you're carrying the so-called weight of the world on your shoulders. People ask, well, how do you set it aside? How do you do this? How do you do that? And it's, can you speak more to that from your perspective? Like, I know that you're coaching people one-on-one and consulting with people to help them do just that and many different varieties, not only to run their business better and to be better at that, but to also run their life better and live a life amidst running a business and bringing those ideas together.
I've got a cool example from a prospecting call that I had. Okay, just a side note. I want to get my kids to do door-to-door sales for security equipment.
Everyone should do it.
I want them to get as many no's as they can and recognize it has nothing to do with who they are. It's not their identity,
Yeah.
But no, the story I'm thinking about is this guy wanted to work with me, and he said, I need $30,000 more a month in revenue. I'm like, okay, that's fantastic. We can do that. He's like, okay. I'm like, can I ask why? He said, well, I'd like to hire another employee. I said, okay, that's good, but can I ask why? He said, well, I need a little help with some of this stuff here, and I want to be able to expand a little more. And of course, I just continued to ask why. And about 10 whys later, he wanted to spend more time at home. So I said to him, how about this? Instead of making the target $30,000 more a month, what if we just found a way to assess your business the way it is and see if we can get you at home more right now? And then if we need to grow it, we can. And he said, yeah. And what we were able to do is we were able to streamline what he was doing in the business, make the business more profitable, and get him at home. So it made me really aware of the fact that sometimes you have this desire for something. For him was to spend more time at home, but somehow it becomes clouded by the world, and then you kind of have this idea of this is the way to go for the solution. Then you focus on it. Next thing you know, 3 years have passed, 5 years have passed,
and
one ex-wife, two ex-wives. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm not, exaggerating. Sometimes it is this bad, and I think if we can pull back and actually research the why first, then the what and the how becomes so much more logical, easier, and you hurt yourself and others less.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely, it does. I know you said this at a variety of this, but I'll frame the question around that.
Yeah.
The follow-up question. Did you have any people that were mentors to you coming along the way that really made a big difference in your process?
Well, I was very blessed. I had hundreds of mentors, and they were authors of books. I never got to meet them.
So, and I mean specifically more a close proximity.
Yeah, I was kind of this goes back to my childhood. When your father dies when you're very young, um, he died before he should have been mentoring me and modeling things for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know that that was part of the story. And I think now, fast forward the clock to where I'm at today, this makes sense that I would be a business coach, a life coach, a mentor, an advocate, a champion for people that are working hard and want to work better. So for the most part, I did it alone.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I say to a lot of people when we're coaching is, um, if if you're sharing with your employees and using your employees as a sounding board, that is a very dangerous thing to do, because at some point there will be a conflict of interest. You need someone in your corner that is outside of that, that under no circumstance are they interested in anything but your well-being. That employee is going to have some selfish motives, logical, necessary ones. So I did it alone for a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
A really long time. Oh, we got company.
Oh, pup.
I did it alone for a really long time. And at the end of the day, I decided that, okay, I'm going to hire a coach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hire someone specifically to walk with me.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, people didn't believe what I did, but I basically paid for a coach for a whole year in full.
Mm-hmm.
And even my banker asked me, like, why are you doing this? Like, why wouldn't you just go month to month? And I said, well, if times get tough, and they will, I need someone there that is not going to be first on the chopping block and if I'm having to cut down my budget. So I invested hard, and yeah, they walked with me for a year, and it was a good investment.
Mm-hmm.
And now I currently have 2 or 3 coaches that I work with on a regular basis, and I'm a firm believer that if you are pouring out, you got to have people pouring in.
Yeah, I agree. I've heard, even myself in the recent times, you and I have talked about this subject quite a bit. Just that a lot of entrepreneurs get to a certain stage, or some decide to do it earlier, some later. But people who are winning on a really big level, I almost never don't have some sort of coaching, mentoring relationship, typically paid and focused and purposeful.
Yep.
The really high performers of this world figure that out, and
Yeah.
they invest in it. They invest in themselves, and they invest in their growth and their future and their mental health, their physical health, their spiritual health, their relational health, all these things, and make sure that they have accountabilities and support in it. Because when you lead big organizations and big things, there's a heavy weight on you, and you're, like you said, you're pouring out and you're pouring out and you're pouring out. And you know, the adage of heavy is the head that wears the crown is the problem is heavy is the head who only pours out and never gets poured back in.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think a lot of people, Jory, that they get stuck in this place where, excuse me, I know it all.
Yeah.
I know this. I just have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, you know, as the role of a coach is a cheerleader
Mm-hmm.
for a person that just needs to be picked up and held up and encouraged.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's an advocate,
Yeah.
someone to fight for them. Sometimes it's a sounding board. But often it's about accountability.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for me that, like, I've been in a good habit of physical exercise for a lot of years. But if ever I have to travel for a month, or for any reason I'm out for a month or 2, I will immediately phone up a friend and say, hey, how much would it cost me for you to show up at my door for the next 14 days? I want to go to the gym, and I just, under no circumstances do I want to weigh out. Like, it's that simple to me. A lot of people don't know that that could work.
Yeah.
And they battle and fight with
Themselves.
motivation, and yeah, they blame themselves, they
Mm-hmm.
blame this, they blame that. We're just not designed to work alone.
Mm-hmm.
We're just not designed to work alone.
Yeah.
So
That's good. It's really good. It's a thing many people never overcome or never realize that it's a big thing. It's
Yeah.
a part of being a high performer and part of being able to serve other people on a high level for a long period of time
Yep.
is to make sure that you're also getting that input
Yep.
as well.
And I would add one other thing is that when you get to a certain stage, you also need someone that you're pouring into. I got a cute story of my daughter. She's about 9 years old. A friend of mine had a place in Hawaii and said, go out there, take your family for a week and just enjoy. So we went out there and we went to a yoga class, and great class, beautiful weather, felt wonderful after it, hydrated. Anyways, I'm looking for my daughter. I cannot find her. Starting to worry, it's a big house, but I still can't find her. And then I'm looking for my phone and I can't find my phone. Like, now this is weird. Anyways, she was in a back corner of the house and she had a mat laid out and she had my phone propped up and she was like, okay, and now I want you to take a deep breath and hold. And she was doing it, and it taught me something that was so obvious, but I just didn't know. And it was that for a lot of people, when you are taught something, the way to seal it in is to teach it to someone else. So one of the things I do with my kids and with my clients is, as I start coaching them and teaching them on very specific things, especially leadership, I want them to coach other people, and I want them to seal that into themselves. Yeah. Does that make sense?
No, totally. I've heard it. If you can teach it, you know it, and if you can't teach it, you don't know it. Really.
Yeah.
Honestly, and I don't think a lot of people put themselves through that litmus test kind of.
Yeah.
Of, is like, could you teach this to somebody?
Yep.
Ooh, okay, then you don't really know it actually, anyways.
Yep.
For sure. Cool. I think it's time to take another shot, David.
Let's
what
do
you
this.
think? Let's get another shot going.
Yep.
Right on.
I might just stick with what
I think the old school is serving them well.
I am old school, so it probably fits for me.
I like that old gun.
I would love an old gun like that. I would not want to buy a new gun.
No, these are cool, but like the classic, it feels good in your hand. I like the wood pump on this too.
Yeah.
Like just the wood on it just feels right. Got the nice hunting dog etched into the side of the thing. Canadian-made gun.
I probably would like to shoot it, but
Yeah.
Is there anything in this one now?
Yeah, just put the one bullet in. Careful with the burning of the hands.
Yep.
Number 2, you're 1 for 1, 100% right now.
Okay.
Ready to rock and roll. Let's see it. Oh, yes. 2 for 2. He's just happy. Is this not, like I said, winning is funner than fun is fun. Oh, this is great. I'm really enjoying this. 2 for 2, David. And I would say the same for your questions so far. It's been good.
I'm telling you, it's been a whole lot of years, probably 20 years since I've done anything like this.
Yeah, and you're killing it. You're just nailing it. It's like riding a bike, though, shooting stuff.
I like it. It's fun.
It's great. Okay, we're going to do third question. So the question number 3 is, what role do you feel that leadership played in your success as an entrepreneur and father?
I want to answer this in a slightly different way. I didn't know that I didn't know how much I didn't know. And when you don't know that, then you're not moving towards that direction. So I'm reading all these different things in all these different areas, but I'm missing certain parts that are vital by a mile. And for me personally, these parts were how to be a husband and how to be a father. And this is the most important thing in the world to me, but yet it just evaded me. I had no idea. So when I realized that and I started tapping into people that could lead me accordingly, that was a game changer for me as far as fulfillment. Again, the regret is I wish I would have done it sooner, but I also wouldn't want to change much of my story, Yeah,
no, and I agree, and I've heard a lot of different varieties of that, but I think you're hitting a great point here. And a lot of young men or young women and young leaders in business, it's a thing that they struggle and stumble on, is that they put their whole selves into their business, and even society in our world says give it 110, both feet in, go hard, blah 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 blah. They don't go, oh, don't forget about your family. They go, get that business going, make that money, it'll all work out. And with the divorce rates that we have, the fatherlessness that exists with children, even who have their fathers around that are dismissing them through abdication of that role, and these young men and young women not knowing how to lead their families well. It's such a huge gap, and I think there's a ton for people to learn and to gain from realizing its importance and then leaning into it.
Well, if there's anyone out there that's just starting, if I had their ear, this is what I would do if I were starting over. I would immediately focus on my identity, and I would get that sorted out right out of the gate. Because any pursuits that you are doing to fulfill your identity are going to be fleeting. I remember golfing with a guy, and he's like, De Silva, tell me about yourself. And I told him what I did for a living. And he was a patient guy. He was cute. He's like, okay, now that I know what you do for a living, tell me about yourself. And I realized, myself is my business. There was no self. So I just heard a guy, Paul Enns, share on this brilliantly, and he just said that how can you actually know who you are if you don't know experientially who God is? It was powerful for me because, if you can imagine God as a Ferrari, you might know it on paper. It's red, it's got leather seats, it's got 500 horsepower, it's got this. But until you actually start it, drive it, feel your head tip back when you accelerate, that's experientially knowing it. And I believe that you can only know yourself out of that lens. So that was big for me. And then once you can do that, you've got your priorities. God first, take care of yourself, you're managing everything, then your spouse, then your family, and then maybe a local church that you support. Business is always going to be taken care of. But you got to prioritize yourself.
I talk about this with some of my guys, and it's the guys that are really dedicated company men, right? Like they give you all they got all the time. And I love that about them. But then I also see in them that they're burning themselves out, and they serve the customer to their own detriment. They don't take care of themselves. And I go, you got to understand that if you don't take care of you don't take a break and go on a holiday, you don't spend time with your kids and your family, and you're always here and you're always this, you will eventually crash and burn. And then all these customers that rely on you lose 100% of you. So why don't you give them what you can give them, the fair and correct amount, and give your family and yourself the right amount of care as well, and then they can have the benefit of you 100%, forever.
100%.
But so many people just go hard until they burn out, and then they quit. Most people just quit, give up. I can't do this anymore. These types of sentiments, and it's like you realize that you, in not managing yourself and leading yourself through this, because you always think you're helping them, but ultimately you're hurting them because you're going to take yourself away. And this is the same with your family. Ultimately, if you're serving them by working as hard as you can work and you're burning yourself out, and then your marriage fails or you don't have a good relationship with the kids, you ultimately took 100% of it away from them in the end, because you didn't lead yourself and manage yourself and keep the right perspective on
And
things.
a lot of self-care right now is directed at, emotional, physical, mental. It's a lot focused on that, but we have to remember that we are spiritual beings. It is so important to tie into that, and honestly, it's probably the principal one you should tie into, because what you get out of that is the ultimate self-care, and that will allow you to pour out.
Pouring in so that you can pour out. 100%. Great answer. Love it, David. Ready for number 3?
Did I just hear us being called? I think we did.
I think it did. Curtain call.
Let's do it.
Boom, boom. Let's do it. It's more down than back.
There we go. All right, I don't know if that's a sign about this. If I can't pull that trigger.
Oh, 3 for 3. You're setting a pretty high bar for the next guys, eh?
This will be funny. I love it.
Oh, again, you go, well, it's only 5 shots. 100%. that's not a given here, right? Like, that's good. You're killing it. I love it. Okay, 3 for 3, setting a very high bar. I like it. I like it. Okay, question number 4, David. And this one I hope will really speak to our listeners, and it's something that only experience can teach you. But what in your journey or what in your leadership did you feel held you back over the course of your life and your career?
You know, we've tied into it a bit, but just in the spirit of vulnerability, like the amount of work that I have had to invest into my marriage and into the rearing of my children has been unbelievable. And it is because of neglect. Now, ignorantly I neglected it, but that just doesn't take away from the fact that doing something or not doing something will have an effect. So my best advice to anyone out there is to have checks and balances in your life that can question what you're doing at any time. Having, you know, maybe a good friend that can speak to you openly and say, hey, you know, everyone in business might like you, but all these people are not in business, they're not particularly fond of you. And then finding out why.
Yeah.
What is that? And honestly, like 9 times out of 10, you're probably oblivious to it. You probably don't even know that you're doing something.
They call them blind spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I would immediately focus on, when you're filling your calendar, put your self-care in first. Whatever you need to be the entrepreneur that you are first, then your family, and then let business fill the rest. But when you fill it with business first, you know, usually your family will sneak in there, but there will be nothing for yourself. And now all of a sudden, you know, you can be physically out of shape, mentally out of shape, emotionally out of shape, and set up for disaster.
Yeah.
So that's the big one for me.
Yeah, no, I agree completely. I think you and I have talked about this before, I use a core 4 model, which is kind of, you just about said exactly that, which is, I call it mental and spiritual. I mix them together because the activities of self-care are the same, more or less there. And then it's relational, so family, friends, kids. Then there's physical, your physical health, like making sure you're not having a heart attack or panic attacks, or that you're getting some exercise in and eating well and doing the things that you need to do to be healthy for the other parts of your life. And then your business, your financial health, your progress in what you're building and what you're working on, your work health. So in those 4 areas, you need, for me, it's a check and balance in each. What is the health of this area? What is the health in this area? What is the health in this area? And even from there now, what's the progress I want to make in each area, and how much time am I committing in my calendar? So actually, when on Monday mornings when I meet with my assistant, we do my core 4 list that I want to make progress on in this quarter, and then we put them in the calendar on Monday morning first.
Perfect.
So she goes, hey, you're supposed to have a date night with your wife this week. When is that going to happen? Right? And it's the thing I love about having my assistant hold me accountable on it is that I'm never going to be as hard on myself as she is actually on me, right? And she's just like, well, you said you wanted to do it. Do you want to do it or not? It's that question, like getting in your face. It's not rude. You said you want to do it. Do you actually want to do it? But when it's your internal dialogue and, oh, I'll get it later, and these things that we do to ourselves, they fall off the map. They drop off, and you neglect the things that don't need to be neglected, right?
One thing that concerns me for our future leaders is the lack of boundaries, and therefore the lack of commitments. And for me, like one thing that was really important is my yeses meant yes and my no's meant no. And sometimes I did it, you know, like out of just an absolute automatic, because I knew what I could handle, and I knew that if I did anything more, I would tip. Now this is still me neglecting important areas of my life that I didn't know I was. But if I had someone alongside me who could say, well, what about that? What about this? That could have been a completely different game.
And if I go back to full kind of thinking back through it, core 4 came out of a coaching relationship.
There you go.
It was something that guy, and indirect, like a group coaching scenario, but I was taught it and told to execute on it and follow up with it, and that accountability is what got me on that program, and then I found someone to help me be accountable with it. So there's a lot of different ways to do that, but at the end of the day, what you're saying is you need other people to help you along that process, because we get caught in we get in our own little foxhole,
Yeah.
and then the only one you're talking to is, you don't know who you're talking to in your mental dialogues, right?
You know, like the old school leader sitting at the desk with a lone eagle in the background.
Yeah.
You know, it's so not true. Like, it's
Yeah.
just like,
Nobody got anywhere without help.
yeah.
I
But
agree.
now to be conscious about that and purposeful and to lead with that, and to take into account all the areas of your life and just be and aim for balance. Like, I'm not saying that you're not going to binge. There's lots of times where you binge. You know, like you go all in for a certain area to meet a deadline or do this. That's great. That's not a problem. But you can't be doing that every single time.
Well, and in the entrepreneurial world, you binge on work and binge on work and binge on work, and then everyone else falls on the wayside, because work's a little bit less forgiving typically than your wife
Yeah.
for a while.
Yep.
Right? And it will work really. We believe that work will crash and fail if we don't give it all of our all, but our wife can hold on, and our kids can hold on, and our health can hold on, right? And our mental and we're always the last, so we can hold on. I can keep going, I'm good, I'm fine. We can keep going, I'm good, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, when you're just not,
Yeah.
and other people can see it and you can't.
Yeah.
Right? So to kind of recap, what you're saying would be to have an accountability relationship would be a
100%.
big one. And then also to prioritize things in a proper time. Those are the things that held you back or that were limiting factors to you, were not prioritizing the right things for the right amounts of time and not having good accountability.
Yep.
That's great.
And this is where, if you're well read, you know, you'll get insights out of everyone's story.
Yes.
You know, and as soon as you hear something that's there, write it down.
Yeah.
Absolutely write it down and make that a part of your next processing.
And and implement. Because you can hear it and it can strike, you can go, oh yeah, that really hits home, and then you can just let it go away and miss it completely.
Life happens.
Because life happens.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's so good, David. Ready for 4?
Let's go for 4.
Number 4. We got 3 for 3.
Okay, let's do this.
Keep setting this bar. And not even one person's been injured yet today. It's pretty spectacular, I must say. Here we go. Oh, no.
The reign of terror has ended.
Oh. Okay, we still got one more. I'm gonna hold the bar up nice and high. Okay, we missed one. He is human.
He is
He
human.
is human. As I was saying, if you take it all the glory now, then like no one else is gonna want to come and compete. I did like your suggestion though, is then it will add the spin. So if they want to beat your record, they'll have to first do a 360 and then shoot.
Just make sure the gun's
I think
pointed
the danger level definitely increases in that
increases
scenario
right
as well. Perfect. Okay, we're on question number 5. And this is another great question for the audience here, and something that I think about often when I'm trying to lead other leaders and help people get better.
Yeah.
Is how have you gone about through the course of your journey educating yourself and growing yourself as a leader to get to where you have been today?
Great question. It's actually something that I do, that I've done for myself always. When I first started reading books, I would just power through them, and it was just a race. How fast can I read it? How much can I gather from it? Eventually, I just realized that well, the key word is slow down. And most entrepreneurs don't understand that word. No. They don't understand it at all. So what I did is I would take a book, and after reading a chapter, I would answer 3 questions. What is the author trying to teach me? What am I taking away? And what will be my practical application? And by slowing down and thinking of that consciously, I would get the most value from that book. And again, the differential between what is the author trying to teach me and what am I taking away could mean he says one word that triggers a thought and gets me excited and I think of something.
Yeah.
But if you just keep reading and reading and reading, you miss those moments.
Yeah.
The other hack that I did, which I love, I learned this from one of my clients that was in Dubai actually, and he said, if you're reading a book that's 10 years old, find interviews with that author right when they release the book, because it will be the most powerful interviews they've had. because they are so excited that they've just launched this book. So they'll tell you stuff that is in the book and stuff that didn't make the book but are still pretty helpful.
Yeah, near and dear to their heart. It's so true when there's book launches. Like often I'll listen to podcasts and things in the book
Yep.
of this guy who's on the podcast will get recommended or whatever. But they're so passionate about the thing that they've written about, and it's fresh
Yep.
on them, right? And so they're, like you said, they're giving you the absolute best and
Yep.
greatest of that book. And even if you don't read the book later, you're getting the thing that they most want to drive home about their book in
Yeah.
that moment.
That concept worked for me so well that now I actually do it as part of a group coaching program where I take my favorite books, I break them down into weekly emails. They get a chapter every week, but they don't get the next chapter. Now they can read ahead, of course, but there will be a group call, we'll discuss it, and everyone will answer those 3 or 4 questions. So powerful. The other thing I think that is really helpful is I joined group programs. I chose to be coached. I used to hire coaches to just work with me one-on-one. And then I realized, they're teaching me a lot of the same stuff that I teach others. They might have a little different spin on it, but, not getting a huge amount of value. So what I did is I joined group programs where there was other entrepreneurs all in there. Now all of a sudden, I'm learning about different industries. I'm learning about different personalities. You've got an aggressive male over here. You've got a passive male over here. You got this female over here. And you got, all of a sudden I am learning from everybody.
Yes, that is so true.
And it was really, really helpful. And not to mention just really cool stories of perseverance.
Yeah. And
Sometimes,
perspective. Like these same topics that you're getting taught, that you teach, you go, okay, now I get to see how other people learn them and how it applies to them and what they're going to do about it. And then especially when you get in these groups where you're in the long time horizon, you see how it affects people over a long period of time and how people change and have implemented, and you can ask them, okay, so we listened to the same call. What did you get out of that you then changed? And it's a way more feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, 100%. The other thing is you can hear their stories, and isn't it great if you can listen to a story, listen to what they tried, what worked, what failed, and not have to do the same thing yourself?
Oh, so powerful.
There's a lot of value there. So those 2 things have been pretty helpful for me.
Yeah, strong. It's really true. Obviously reading, that leaders are readers, kind of the cheesy adage, but it's so true, as I find that people that are willing to invest the time, because people who don't have time to read don't learn and they don't change, right? And it's about making time to invest in yourself and to really care to grow enough to actually put the time in and the effort. And as you read more and more and more and slowly, and you digest and churn through these things, some things become repeatable, but every book has a tidbit, a sentence, a paragraph, a chapter that can affect you.
Absolutely.
And that you can take to heart and you can make adjustments on. And then you put all of these adjustments and things into who you are today. And it's just been these slow little marginal gains, marginal gains is something I say a lot when I'm growing leaders and trying to bring people up. Is just like, this isn't a leaps and bounds thing.
Yeah.
It's a marginal gains. It's like working out. It's like business. It's like everything else. Your growth is small and consistent. You stand and watch the field over here, peas grow. It's months in the process, right? And that's fast. And you can't see day after day that it's growing, but it is growing. And there's going to be a whole harvest here. And it's the same for us, is that the benefit of the people that we lead is made in our consistency to do these marginal gains and read these books and pour into ourselves and spend the time alone thinking and meditating and making sure that our personal health is correct and making sure relationships are strong and our health is correct and all these things. It's the little marginal gains along the way that build us into the leader that we are today. Right?
Yep. I've got a perfect example of a client that hired me to build his business, and one of his goals was just to lose some weight. And he wanted to lose 100 pounds. I said, okay, no problem. And in the first month, at the 3-week mark, he had lost 5 pounds. He's like, I want to give up. It's never going to work. I'm like, do you think you could lose 2 or 3 more pounds in the next 2 weeks? He's like, yeah. I'm like, we decided we're going to do this over 12 months. That adds up to just about 100 pounds. And again, just short-sighted.
Yeah.
Wanting the immediacy of the result but not being patient enough to work through it.
Yeah, and consistency
Yeah,
is
6
so
months
huge.
in, he lost 50 pounds, and that's all he needed. He was happy,
Yeah.
you know, content. Because as he's losing weight, he's also building muscle.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, I think that when you make that commitment, to follow through with it,
Yes.
huge.
Yeah, that stubborn consistency
Yep.
of making a commitment and going at it no matter what.
Yep.
Something that was a game, like a life-changing game changer for me was 75 hard in that respect, and seeing that it's a no excuses, no options. You do everything according to, it's very rigid and very clear, which is
Yeah.
helpful. But in 75 days of that rigidness, it was insane.
Yeah.
It was truly insane, the amount of progress that could be made in less than 3 months.
That's amazing.
Shocking.
Yeah.
So it's consistency. It's not rocket, it's never rocket science. It's never this amazing hack that you find that just changes your life. It's consistency.
Yep.
It's putting in the work. It's putting in the time.
Yep.
It's being disciplined
Yep.
and stubborn most of the time.
Yep. One of the things I do is I give everyone an intake, and it breaks it up. You said 4 areas. I have 5.
Mm-hmm.
We break down all 5 of those areas really specifically, and then we map out a plan over the course of 13 months.
Mm-hmm.
We do it, we make it bespoke.
Mm-hmm.
We find out what the client wants the most, what he wants the least. We test it. We ask him, why do you want this? Why do you want this? Once we formulate that plan, then we lay it out.
Yeah.
It's really
Get
good.
really good clarity.
Yep.
Because there can't be progress without clarity.
Yep.
Right? If we can't measure it, if we don't know what the goal is, if we can't break it into reasonable bite-sized chunks, we're never going to get there.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, it's great. Well, David, there's a 5th and final shot to take here. I just want to say now, thank you very much for coming out. I've really enjoyed this conversation. It's really, it's good to share some time in the beautiful yard with you, hanging out, shooting some guns, and sharing some wisdom.
My pleasure. I'm happy to be the pioneer of this. This is so much fun.
First man on the thing. I told you want to come out and be a guinea pig for
Absolutely.
5 shots, and you were happy to oblige, and so it's been a lot of fun. So I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'm really happy to do the first one with you. So
awesome. Thanks for having me.
Let's get this last one done. I want to see you knock it out of the park here. So
Let's do it.
Let's finish strong.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, here we go, David. Finishing strong. Oh, yeah. There we go. Nails it on the last one. So we're 80%, 4 out of 5. Well done. Great having you out, man.
Awesome.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in to Built to Lead. 5 shots. It was a pretty fun time with David. We're going to do this more in the future. It went pretty well today, so I think we're going to bring out a few new guests. Hope you enjoyed it. If you got value out of today's episode, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and shared. If you'd shoot us a comment, we'd really appreciate that as well. And yeah, tune in next time.